Just a waitress? Honey, get me the manager. I need someone who can actually handle a complex order for my associates. The crowd in the small diner shifted, the clatter of cutlery replaced by an uncomfortable silence. The man speaking was loud, dressed in a suit that cost more than the car she drove, and he gestured with a dismissive flick of his wrist. But the woman in the faded blue uniform didn't flinch. Her name tag read Sarah, and she simply stood there, notepad in hand, her expression a perfect mask of professional neutrality. Her silence was a vacuum, and it unnerved him. He saw a tired, small-town server. But the man in the corner, the one with the quiet eyes and the faded trident tattoo just visible on his forearm, saw something else entirely. He saw the way she stood, not slumped with fatigue, but at a subtle, perfect parade rest. He saw the economy of her movements, the way her eyes scanned the room not with boredom, but with a constant, placid assessment. The arrogant man saw a servant. The soldier saw a sentinel. The difference was everything. If you believe respect is earned, not demanded, type earned in the comments below. The man, a local real estate magnate named Thompson, continued his performance, his voice echoing with condescending authority. He was trying to impress the two nervous-looking clients across from him, using the waitress as a prop for his own perceived importance. Look, he sighed dramatically, it's not complicated. But it requires a certain level of attentiveness, a quality that seems to be in short supply here. He leaned forward, his voice dripping with faux patience. Probably never even left this county, have you? It's okay. Some people are just built for this. He gestured vaguely at the diner, at her life, at everything he assumed she was. Around them, the other patrons stared into their coffee cups, their silence a form of passive complicity. They didn't want Thompson's attention turned on them. And through it all, Sarah remained a statue of calm. She did not defend herself. She did not call for the manager. She did not react. Her stillness was an act of profound discipline, a wall against which his arrogance broke and dissipated. Her focus was absolute, centered on the simple task before her, taking an order. Her lack of response was not weakness. It was a language he was too ignorant to understand. It was the language of the quiet professional. Then, chaos erupted. It started with a shout from the kitchen, followed by the terrifying, hungry whoosh of a grease fire catching the ventilation hood. Thick, acrid smoke billowed through the service window. Panic was instantaneous. Patrons screamed, chairs scraped against the floor, and a frantic, disorganized crush began for the single front door. Thompson, the man of such towering confidence moments before, froze in his seat, his face pale with primal fear. His associates looked at him for guidance and found none. But Sarah didn't freeze. As the world dissolved into noise and fear, she became a portrait of pure, cold motion. The transformation was breathtaking. She moved with a speed and precision that was utterly alien to the tired waitress persona. She didn't run, she flowed. In 3 precise strides, she had the fire extinguisher off the wall, her hands checking the pressure gauge in a single, practiced motion. Her eyes weren't wide with fear, they were narrow with calculation, assessing the fire, the exits, the panicked civilians. It wasn't a reaction, it was an activation. Her voice, when it finally cut through the din, was unrecognizable. It was not the polite murmur of a server, but the clear, sharp crack of command. Out. Now. She ordered, her voice resonating with an authority that instantly silenced the screaming. Single file to the door. Do not push. Move. People, desperate for direction, obeyed without question. As they filed out, she advanced on the kitchen fire. Her movements were a textbook drill. Pull the pin. Aim the nozzle at the base of the fire. Squeeze the lever. Sweep from side to side. There was no wasted energy, no hesitation. The furious roar of the flames was smothered under a cloud of chemical powder, replaced by an eerie, hissing silence. The entire event, from the first shout to the last hiss of the extinguisher, took less than 30 seconds. In the smoky, debris-strewn diner, a profound stillness fell. Everyone, the staff huddled by the back door, the patrons staring from the safety of the sidewalk, and an utterly speechless Mr. Thompson, stared at the lone figure standing in the smoke, extinguisher in hand. The quiet waitress had just handled more complexity in half a minute than he had in his entire life. From the corner of the room, the man with the trident tattoo rose to his feet. Several other men at his table, all built with the same quiet, coiled intensity, stood with him. They moved together, a silent, coordinated unit. The leader, Commander Williams, walked through the smoky haze directly toward Sarah. He stopped a few feet from her, his eyes locking onto hers with an expression of dawning, absolute certainty. He didn't need to see a file. He didn't need a name. He recognized the spirit behind the eyes, the ghost of a warrior he thought he'd lost to time. In a voice filled with a reverence that stunned every onlooker into deeper silence, he spoke her true name. Chief Petty Officer Morgan, he said, the title landing like a thunderclap in the quiet diner. Operation Nightfall. Kandahar Province. Sarah gave a slow, almost imperceptible nod. It was the only confirmation he needed. Then, Commander Williams snapped to attention, his back ramrod straight, his hand shooting up in a salute so crisp, so perfect, it seemed to cut the very air. Behind him, his entire team of Navy SEALs mirrored the action in perfect, thundering unison. The sound of their palms striking their brows was a single, sharp report, a declaration of ultimate respect from the world's most elite warriors to a small-town waitress covered in foam. Williams held the salute for a long moment before lowering his hand. He turned his head slightly, his gaze falling upon the shell-shocked Mr. Thompson. His voice was low, but it carried the weight of battles fought and lives lost. "This woman," he said, his words precise and devastating, "is Senior Chief Sarah Morgan. She was a Special Amphibious Reconnaissance Corpsman. ASERC. We just called her Doc." He paused, letting the weight of the title settle. "In Kandahar, our vehicle was hit by an IED. We were pinned down, taking heavy fire. 3 of my men were critically wounded. I was one of them." His eyes never left Thompson's. While other people were running for cover, she ran toward the gunfire. She ran into a storm of bullets and dragged us, one by one, back to safety. The medal she was awarded for that day, the one she refused to ever wear, is worth more than every building you will ever own. So you will show her your respect. It was not a request. It was an order, delivered with the finality of a judge's gavel. The mystery of Sarah wasn't just solved. It was obliterated by a truth so powerful it left nothing but awe and shame in its wake. The story, as such stories do, caught fire. A bystander had filmed the entire event on their phone. The fire, the calm command, and the breathtaking salute. The clip went viral overnight. It was a story too perfect to ignore. The humble big shot, the hidden hero, the dramatic reveal. The diner, Oak Haven Eats, became an overnight landmark. News vans parked outside. Veterans from 3 states away made pilgrimages, driving for hours just to sit at her counter, order a coffee, and offer a quiet nod of recognition. It wasn't about fame. It was about acknowledgement. They came to be in the presence of someone who understood the silent language of service. The legend of Senior Chief Morgan, the waitress who was more than she seemed, spread through barracks, online forums, and VFW halls. She became a symbol of the quiet professional, a living reminder that heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear aprons. The day after the incident, Mr. Thompson returned to the diner. He didn't come with clients or an entourage. He came alone. The bustling diner fell quiet as he walked to Sarah's station. He looked smaller, his expensive suit somehow ill-fitting. He didn't try to justify his behavior or make excuses. He simply stood before her and, in a voice barely above a whisper, said, "I am sorry. There is no excuse for my arrogance. I was wrong." He placed a check on the counter, a sum large enough to be a donation, not a tip. It was his penance, his public admission of a profound and humbling lesson learned. Sarah looked at him, then at the check, and simply nodded. No gloating. No, "I told you so." She accepted his apology with the same quiet dignity with which she had accepted his insults. She didn't need his shame. She only required his understanding. Later, when a local reporter asked her about the viral fame, she just shrugged and wiped down the counter. "I was just doing my job," she said. "Here, it's pouring coffee. Over there, it was patching up my boys. It's all just service." A year later, the diner was more than a restaurant. It was a community center. It became the unofficial headquarters for a veteran outreach program Sarah had started, helping former soldiers navigate the difficult transition back to civilian life. The framed photo of the salute now hung proudly behind the counter, a small brass plaque beneath it reading, "Respect is earned, the story of that day became institutional folklore. New recruits at the nearby army base were told about the unassuming waitress who faced down a fire and was honored by SEALs. It was a lesson in humility, a cautionary tale against making assumptions. The moral was clear. The most capable person in the room is rarely the loudest. They taught that true strength wasn't about the noise you made, but about the calm you maintained when everyone else was screaming. Sarah Morgan's legacy wasn't forged in the fires of combat alone, but in the quiet, consistent service she offered every single day. True strength isn't announced with a bullhorn. It is demonstrated in the crucible of crisis. True honor is not measured by the medals on a chest, but by the scars you are willing to earn for others. Sarah Morgan never needed a parade or a proclamation to validate her worth. She needed a mission, a purpose, and she found it first in the dust of Afghanistan and then in the quiet dignity of a small-town diner. She taught an entire town, and by extension a small corner of the internet, that judging a person by their job title is a fool's errand. Her real legacy wasn't in the past she had so carefully concealed, but in the future she was building, one cup of coffee, one act of service, and one quiet lesson in respect at a time. The uniform changes, but the service remains the same. For more stories where quiet competence triumphs over loud arrogance, and where a person's history defines their worth, subscribe to Unknown Heroine Tales.